Welcome to Untold Mysteries. Before we continue, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like, and share with your friend who likes mysteries. Today, I'm taking you to a place most people have never heard of, an island so mysterious, so dangerous, that governments around the world quietly pretend it doesn't exist. Locals whisper about it, sailors avoid it, and those who've dared to step foot on it never return. This isn't some Hollywood movie. This is real, a real island, sitting quietly in the middle of the ocean, covered in thick jungle, surrounded by reefs sharp enough to slice a ship in half. And yet, the real danger isn't the terrain. It's what happens once you arrive. For centuries, strange stories have circulated. Boats drifting too close, planes vanishing from radar, fishermen hearing voices carried across the waves when no one was there. And then, there are a few survivors, the ones who escaped. Their stories are so bizarre, so unbelievable, that even scientists don't know what to make of them. But here's the chilling part. Every culture near this island has its own name for it. The locals call it the place where time stopped. Old maps mark it with skulls. And sailors, they call it simply the Forbidden Island. Now, you're probably wondering, where is this island? Why is it so dangerous? And how could time possibly stop? Well, stay with me, because the deeper we go, the stranger it gets. And in Part 1, we'll uncover the earliest accounts of this cursed place. In Part 2, you'll hear about the failed expeditions that tried to conquer it. And in Part 3, you'll discover the terrifying truth that science still can't explain. So let's start with the first sightings. The year was 1771. A British merchant ship was blown off course in a violent storm. When the skies cleared, they spotted land. A green island rising from the ocean. Untouched. Pristine. The captain made a note in his logbook. An island that seems to resist time itself. But he didn't dare go closer. Why? Because every compass on the ship spun wildly as soon as they neared it. Like some invisible force was pulling at the metal. That was just the beginning. Decades later, in the 1800s, a whaling vessel reported drifting near the same location. They described seeing smoke rising from the trees, and hearing what sounded like drums echoing across the water. But when they tried to investigate, a sudden current pulled their ship dangerously close to the reef. By some miracle, they escaped, and the island was never spoken of again in their official logs. Almost like they wanted to erase it. But wait until you hear this. In 1925, an American pilot flying over the Pacific claimed his instruments failed the moment he passed above an unknown island. His altimeter froze. His clock stopped ticking. Even his wristwatch stopped, the second hand frozen mid-tick, when he flew past it. Everything suddenly returned to normal. He was so shaken, he refused to fly again for the rest of his life. Now, you might be thinking, maybe these are just myths, sailors' tales, exaggerations. And normally, I'd agree. But here's the thing, the same stories appear again and again, across cultures, across centuries. Different people, different times, same strange details. Time behaving differently, compasses spinning, people are vanishing. How do you explain that? And there's another detail. The island doesn't appear on most maps, but old hand-drawn charts from the 1500s show it clearly marked, surrounded by warnings, like turn back and here be demons. It's almost like the modern world has tried to erase its existence. But the ocean never forgets. Here's where things take a darker turn. Local tribes who live on nearby coasts tell chilling legends. They say the island is home to the Watchers, not human, not animal, something in between, creatures that walk the jungle, but are never seen directly. Hunters who feed not on flesh, but on time itself. According to the stories, if you set foot on the island, they begin to follow you, and then you vanish. Your body was never found. Your time consumed. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds like pure folklore. But what if there's a grain of truth hidden inside? What if those old myths were describing something real? Some phenomenon that we still don't understand. Let's look at it scientifically. Is it possible for an environment to disrupt time? Maybe not time itself, but our perception of it. Strong magnetic anomalies can mess with compasses. Electromagnetic fields can interfere with watches. And deep in the earth, certain minerals can even bend signals. So maybe, there's a rational explanation. But then again, none of that explains why people vanish. And people do vanish, even in recent history. In 1978, a fishing boat carrying 6 men disappeared near the coordinates. Weeks later, the boat was found drifting empty. No signs of struggle, no signs of damage, But the strangest part, the men's meals were still on the table, as if they had simply stood up and walked off the boat. Here's something that will give you chills. The official report listed it as lost at sea. But an investigator who saw the boat in person later confessed that every single clock on board had stopped at the exact same time, 3:15 a.m., not one tick further, not one tick less. So here's the question. Is this just a cluster of strange accidents? Or is the island itself alive in some way? Does it bend reality? Or is it hiding something far more dangerous than we can imagine? Stay with me, because in part 2, we'll explore the expeditions that tried to land on the island. From secret government missions to explorers who filmed what they saw before disappearing forever. And one shocking case, where an entire crew went missing, except for one man, and what he described will haunt you. But before we dive into that, I want to hear your theory. What do you think the Forbidden Island really is? A natural magnetic anomaly? A supernatural curse? Or maybe something not of this world? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. I'll be reading every single one. And if you're hooked on this mystery, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Untold Mysteries, and share it with someone who loves unsolved secrets as much as you do, because trust me, what's coming next is even stranger. If you thought part 1 was unsettling, what you're about to hear will make you question whether humans were ever meant to step foot on this island. Because in this chapter, we uncover the expeditions, the brave, or perhaps foolish attempts to land on the Forbidden Island, and the terrifying truths that were uncovered. Remember how I said earlier that sailors avoided this place? Well, not everyone did. In 1891, a French expedition, led by Captain Henry Levine, attempted to map the region. Their mission was simple: sail close enough to record its position, collect samples, and return. What happened instead was one of the strangest maritime mysteries in history. The ship, Le Pearl Noir, was last seen leaving Tahiti with 32 men aboard. Weeks later, it drifted back into port, completely intact, supplies untouched, but the crew gone. Not a single soul remained. It was as if 32 men had simply walked off the ship and vanished into the sea. And yet, there were no signs of struggle, no lifeboats missing, no explanation at all. The captain's logbook ended abruptly with a single sentence: "Land in sight. The air feels heavy. God help us." You'd think this would have been enough to scare off anyone else. But curiosity is a powerful force, especially for governments. By the 20th century, whispers spread that the United States Navy had conducted secret missions in the area. Rumors say they tried to establish a base, thinking the island's strange magnetic field could be harnessed for military advantage. But here's the problem. No records of these missions officially exist, and yet, fragments of testimony leak out. One alleged sailor, interviewed years later under anonymity, described what he saw. He said their instruments failed the moment they approached shore. Watches froze, radios died, even their voices sounded echoes delayed by a few seconds. And when they set foot on the island, something followed them. They never saw it directly, but they felt it, in the trees, in the shadows, watching. According to him, men began disappearing one by one, not with screams, not with struggle, just gone, stepped behind a tree, and never returned. Within 48 hours, their commander ordered an evacuation. When they returned to the ship, they discovered half their men missing, and every clock on board had stopped at exactly the same moment. 2:47 a.m. now. Maybe you're thinking this sounds like a ghost story, too unbelievable to be true. But wait until you hear this. Because in 1952, a documentary crew from Australia tried to do the impossible, filmed the island. They brought cameras, recorders, everything. And unlike the government missions, their goal wasn't conquest. It was to reveal the truth, for a brief time. It seemed like they succeeded. The footage they captured was eerie. Dense jungle with vines thicker than a man's arm. Strange markings carved into the trees. And in one clip, faint chanting, in no language anyone recognized. But here's the chilling part. The film reels were found years later, abandoned in a warehouse. Every frame intact, except for the last 2 minutes, burned, melted, completely destroyed. No one knows why. And not a single member of the film crew was ever seen again. Let's fast forward to 1979. This is the most famous expedition of them all, a Japanese research vessel called Hikari Maru. They were investigating magnetic anomalies in the Pacific and decided to test the island directly. At first, everything seemed calm. They recorded soil samples, collected strange black rocks that hummed when touched, and even photographed bizarre plants with glowing patterns. But on the third night, something happened. The surviving radio logs are chilling. Static-filled transmissions of men screaming, shouting in panic, begging for extraction. Then silence. The vessel was later found drifting empty, anchored near the island. Inside, everything was perfectly preserved food, still cooking in the galley, papers scattered mid-study. But once again, no crew, and every single piece of recorded data gone, as if it had been deliberately erased. The only clue, a single message scrawled on the wall of the captain's quarters. Do not stay after dark. Now, here's where it gets even stranger. 1. Man did survive. A junior engineer named Kenji Sato. He was found weeks later, delirious, floating on a raft hundreds of miles away. When questioned, his account was disturbing. He said the island was alive, that the trees seemed to move when no one looked. Those shadows walked without bodies, and that at night, he saw figures watching them from the edge of camp. Figures with no faces. Kenji claimed that, when his crew vanished, it wasn't sudden, said time itself seemed to shift. Hours passed like minutes. Voices echoed in the wrong order, answers coming before questions. Men walked into the jungle, and simply dissolved, as if erased. By the time he escaped on a raft, he swore the island was trying to pull him back. He never spoke publicly again. And soon after, he disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Some believe he was silenced. Others think he returned to the island. Think about this. Multiple expeditions, different decades, different countries, and yet the same outcome. Men vanish, time stops, and the island remains untouched, as though it rejects human presence entirely. But here's the twist. Not all attempts ended in failure. In 2003, a private team of explorers claimed to have landed and returned. They released fragments of their journey online, including photos of massive stone structures hidden in the jungle, structures that looked eerily similar to temples. But days later, their website was taken down, and the team vanished. No trace. Almost like they were erased from existence. So what exactly is on this island? Are they ancient ruins? A secret government site? A rift in time itself? Or something far darker? Stay with me, because in part 3, we're going to uncover the ultimate truth. The theories scientists are too afraid to confirm. The evidence governments have tried to hide. And one final story that might prove the Forbidden Island isn't just a legend. It's real, and it's waiting. But before we go there, I want to know what you think. Would you dare step foot on the Forbidden Island? Or would you stay far, far away? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I'll be reading them all. And if you're enjoying this journey into the unknown, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Untold Mysteries, and share this with a friend who loves mysteries. Because trust me, what's coming in part 3 is going to haunt you. If you've stayed with me this far, you're already braver than most. Because now, we've reached the final chapter of this mystery. The theories, the cover-ups, and the darkest possibility of all, that this island was never meant to be found. Let's start with science.uc. Some researchers believe the island sits on a rare geological fault line, one that generates extreme magnetic anomalies. This would explain the compasses spinning wildly. The radios are dying, and even the strange sensations of time slowing down. But here's the problem. No other place on Earth behaves like this. Not even the Bermuda Triangle. So if it really is a natural phenomenon, why does it seem to target people? Other scientists offer a different explanation. They suggest the island is a time pocket. A place where the fabric of reality folds in on itself. Step onto the island, and you're no longer in sync with the rest of the world. Time moves differently. Past, present, and future overlap, which might explain why explorers described voices answering questions before they were asked, or why men vanished without a trace, as though they'd slipped out of this timeline entirely. But not everyone thinks it's natural. Some are convinced the island is artificial. Yes, built, hidden deep in the jungle are rumors of massive stone structures, walls, stairs leading to nowhere, and carvings too weathered to identify. Archaeologists who have seen the fragments believe they could be older than the pyramids, perhaps built by a civilization we don't even know existed. But here's the eerie part. Whoever built them never left. Some think the faceless figures reported in the jungle aren't ghosts. They're guardians, protectors of something buried deep beneath the island. And then, there's the darkest theory, that the island isn't just cursed. It's alive. Think about it. Trees that seem to move. Shadows that hunt. An island that rejects intruders. What if the land itself is conscious? Feeding. Using explorers as fuel to keep itself hidden. This would explain why survivors describe being pulled back, why equipment fails, why does no one return unchanged. It's not just land, it's a predator. Now here's something the public was never meant to know. Declassified documents hint that governments may already understand this. The US, the Navy, for example, allegedly marked the island as a Category Black zone, off limits even to military reconnaissance. Satellite images of the area are blurred or replaced with generic ocean textures. Why? If it's just another island, what are they hiding? In 2011, a group of independent researchers tried to break this silence. They chartered a small boat and live-streamed their journey online. Thousands watched in real time as they approached the island, the jungle visible in the distance. And then, the feed cut, just static, when the boat was later found. It was empty, the cameras smashed, and the hard drives wiped clean. No backup, no explanation. Almost as if someone or something didn't want the truth to be seen. But wait, there is one more story. The one that keeps me awake at night. A diary found drifting in a waterproof case in 2017. It belonged to a man named Daniel Reeves, a British adventurer who had gone missing near the Pacific the year before. The entries are short, frantic, and unsettling. The first pages are ordinary descriptions of the beach, sketches of strange plants. But then the handwriting changes. Sloppy, terrified. He writes about faces in the dark, about whispers in languages he doesn't know. About losing time, entire days gone, with no memory of what happened. And then the final entry, scrawled so hard the pen tore the page. It read, "Do not follow the music, it is not for us. If you hear it, you are already theirs." That was the last line, and Daniel Reeves was never found. So where does that leave us? Is the Forbidden Island a geological anomaly, a remnant of a lost civilization, a rift in time, or a living entity beyond human comprehension? We may never know, because every attempt to solve the mystery only deepens it. Every explorer who dares to enter never comes back the same. And maybe that's the point. Maybe some places are not meant to be touched, not by science, not by man, and not even by curiosity. But here's the question I'll leave you with. If you knew where the Forbidden Island was, would you go? Would you risk everything for answers? Or would you let the mystery remain unsolved? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. And if this story has gripped you, like it has me, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Untold Mysteries, and share it with someone who loves mysteries. Because out there, hidden in the endless Pacific, there's an island where time has stopped, and if you ever set foot on it, you may never return.